This isn't happening. You're lying, Zola. I didn't. There's no way this is my child. Marcus Weatherly's voice exploded through the penthouse entryway, sharp enough to crack marble. Zola stood there, holding Leo against her chest, feeling every word like a physical blow. 18 months. 18 months she'd waited for this moment, and here it was, exactly as brutal as she'd imagined. Look at him, Marcus. Her voice stayed steady even as her hands trembled. He's yours. Every smile, every glance, he belongs with you. Marcus staggered backward, his face twisting between rage and something else, something that looked like terror. His expensive suit wrinkled as he gripped the edge of a side table, knuckles white. I paid you to handle this. We had an agreement. You paid me to disappear, not to pretend he doesn't exist. Leo shifted in her arms, curious about the tall man shouting. His tiny fingers gripped Zola's collar, but his eyes, those unmistakable steel-gray eyes with gold flecks, stayed locked on Marcus. The penthouse stretched behind Marcus like a museum. Abstract paintings worth 6 figures. Furniture so pristine it looked like no one had ever actually lived here. Windows revealing the city 47 floors below, glittering and distant. Cold. Everything about this place felt cold, except for the baby in her arms, warm and alive and undeniably his. You can't just show up here, Marcus hissed, his voice dropping to something dangerous. After everything. After I gave you more money than you'd see in 5 years of scrubbing floors, you bring this kid here and expect what? That I'll play, Daddy. Zola felt the old shame creep up her spine. The maid. That's all she'd ever be to him. Someone who cleaned up messes, not someone who mattered. But Leo mattered. I'm not here for me, she said, forcing herself to meet his eyes. I'm here because he has a right to know his father. His father? Marcus laughed, bitter and sharp. You don't even know if I'm... Stop. Zola's voice cut through his denial. Look at him, Marcus. Really look. For a second, Marcus went silent. His eyes drifted to Leo, then snapped away like he'd touched fire. I see a baby. That's all. You see yourself. The words hung between them, heavy with truth neither could ignore. Leo squirmed, reaching toward Marcus with chubby hands. That fearless curiosity babies have before the world teaches them caution. Before they learn some people don't want to be reached for. No, Marcus said, backing away. This is a setup. You coached him, showed him photos. This is extortion. Zola's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd prepared for denial, but hearing it while holding their son, watching Marcus treat Leo like a problem instead of a person, ignited something fierce inside her. She bent down and set Leo on the cold marble floor. The baby wobbled, gripping her finger for balance. He'd just started walking, each step still an adventure. Each step she'd celebrated alone, while Marcus lived in towers and pretended they didn't exist. What are you doing? Marcus's voice cracked. He knows who his father is, Marcus. Zola straightened, releasing Leo's hand. You either accept him now, or you lose him forever. Leo took one shaky step, then another, toward Marcus. Stop him, Marcus said, but he didn't move. Couldn't move. Like something invisible had pinned him in place. Leo's tiny legs carried him forward with single-minded determination. No fear, no hesitation, just pure instinct guiding him toward the man with his face. 3 feet away. 2 feet. Marcus's breathing turned ragged. This isn't, I can't. Leo reached Marcus's leg and grabbed the fabric of his tailored slacks with sticky fingers. Pulled himself up to standing, using Marcus as an anchor. Then looked up. The resemblance hit like a freight train. Same strong jawline. Same intense eyes. Same tiny dimple on the left cheek that appeared when babies smiled at people they trusted. Leo lifted his small hand toward Marcus's face. Whispered one word that shattered every wall Marcus had built. Daddy. The penthouse went silent. No traffic noise from below. No hum of expensive appliances. Just that single word echoing off marble and glass and expensive art. Marcus's face drained of color. His hands trembled at his sides, fighting the urge to reach down. Fighting the instinct screaming at him to pick up the child clinging to his leg. Leo said it again, clearer, more certain. Daddy. Then smiled, gap-toothed and bright and absolutely devastating. Something cracked in Marcus's expression. A flash of raw recognition before panic slammed back down. He looked at Zola, eyes wild. Get him off me. No. Zola. You wanted to see him? Here he is. Her voice stayed calm despite the earthquake inside her. Your son. The one you said didn't exist. The one you tried to erase with a check and a legal threat. Footsteps approached from deeper in the penthouse. Fast. Purposeful. Ferris appeared. Marcus's assistant, problem solver, fixer of inconvenient truths. His sharp suit and sharper eyes took in the scene in seconds. Sir, step away from the situation. Ferris's voice dropped to that dangerous calm he used when burying scandals. I'll handle this. But Leo wouldn't let go of Marcus's leg. Wouldn't stop staring up at him with those trusting eyes. He's not a situation, Zola said. He's your employer's child. Ferris ignored her completely, addressing only Marcus. Security is one call away. We can have them removed quietly. No scene. No witnesses. Marcus stared down at Leo, at the small hand gripping his expensive fabric, at the face that mirrored his own baby photos so perfectly his mother would weep. Marcus's voice broke. I don't. Leo tugged harder, demanding attention, demanding acknowledgement. Up. That single word, so simple, so trusting, hit Marcus like a confession he wasn't ready to make. Ferris stepped forward. Sir, don't. Once you acknowledge him, everything changes. She'll own you. Child support. Public scrutiny. Your reputation. My reputation? Marcus's laugh came out strangled. Look at him, Ferris. Just look. I see a liability trying to look like you. That's the game. But Marcus wasn't listening anymore. He crouched down, bringing himself eye level with Leo. This close, denial became impossible. Every feature screamed paternity. Every gesture mirrored his own childhood videos. Leo reached out and touched Marcus's face with gentle curiosity, patted his cheek, smiled. Marcus's breathing stopped. This is your last chance, Zola said quietly. Walk away now, and you never get another. No guilt checks. No surprise visits when he's 18. You're either his father or you're nothing. The weight of that choice pressed down on Marcus's shoulders like the sky itself. Leo leaned forward and rested his forehead against Marcus's, completely trusting, completely certain this tall man with matching eyes would keep him safe. Hit subscribe if you believe children should never be denied love. Only the heartless ignore their own blood staring back at them. Marcus stayed frozen, forehead pressed against Leo's, feeling the baby's breath, soft and innocent and impossible to ignore. Every logical part of his brain screamed to stand up, walk away, let Ferris handle this mess like he handled everything else. But his body wouldn't move. Sir. Ferris's voice turned sharp. You're making a mistake. Marcus straightened slowly, putting distance between himself and Leo. The baby reached for him, confused by the sudden withdrawal. I need to think. There's nothing to think about, Ferris pressed. This is textbook manipulation. She worked here for 6 months? Slept with you once. Twice, Zola said quietly. Ferris shot her a look cold enough to freeze blood. Once, twice, doesn't matter. Point is, she saw an opportunity and took it. Now she shows up with a kid who happens to look vaguely like you. Vaguely, Zola's voice cut through the room. Look at him. Really look. I'm looking at a woman who knows exactly what she's doing. Marcus paced toward the windows, trying to escape the weight of Leo's stare. The city spread below him. Millions of people living millions of lives, none of them standing in penthouses facing impossible choices. Behind him, Leo started to whimper. The sound pierced through Marcus's thoughts like a blade. Not crying yet, just that pre-cry confusion babies get when they don't understand why someone walked away. Up, Leo said again, reaching toward Marcus's back. Daddy, up. Marcus's hands pressed against the cold glass. Stop saying that. He can't help it, Zola said. He's been saying it for 3 weeks. I tried teaching him other words first, mama, ball, dog. But Daddy came out natural. Like he knew. Babies say things randomly. Not like this. Marcus spun around. What do you want from me, Zola? Money? Fine. Name the amount. A house? Done. Just stop pretending this is about him. Zola's face hardened. You think I'd put him through this for money? I came here because he deserves better than growing up wondering why his father didn't want him. I never said I didn't want. Marcus stopped himself. I don't even know if he's mine. Then test him. DNA. Blood. Whatever makes you believe. But look me in the eye and tell me you don't see yourself in him. Marcus couldn't. Because he did see himself. In the stubborn set of Leo's jaw. In the way the baby studied him with intense focus. In the tiny dimple that appeared when he smiled. Leo had stopped reaching and started crawling. Straight toward Marcus again with that same fearless determination. Ferris moved to intercept, but Marcus held up a hand. Don't. Leo reached Marcus's shoes and grabbed his ankle, pulling himself up. Stood there, swaying slightly, looking up with complete trust. Then tugged on Marcus's pant leg. Hard. Something about that gesture, demanding, insistent, refusing to be ignored, broke through Marcus's defenses. That was pure, weatherly stubbornness. The same trait that built his empire. The same trait his father had. His grandfather. Bloodline didn't lie. Marcus's voice came out rough. If I acknowledge him, everything changes. Yes, Zola said. My investors. Board members. They'll question my judgment. Probably. The press will have a field day. Billionaire's secret love child with the maid. They might. Marcus looked at her finally. And you're okay with that? With him growing up in that spotlight. I'm okay with him growing up knowing his father wanted him. The rest we'll figure out. Leo tugged again, more insistent. Made a frustrated sound deep in his throat. The sound of someone tired of being ignored. Marcus felt his hand moving before his brain approved it. Reaching down. Touching Leo's head. Soft hair, baby fine, curling slightly at the ends. Leo's face lit up like sunrise. Daddy. The joy in that word, pure and uncomplicated and absolutely certain, shattered the last of Marcus's resistance. He scooped Leo up. The baby fit perfectly against his chest, like puzzle pieces that had been separated too long. Leo grabbed Marcus's collar and babbled something incomprehensible, but clearly delighted. Ferris made a sound of disgust. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Marcus looked at the small person in his arms, his son, because denying it now felt like denying gravity. And something clicked into place. Maybe, Marcus said. But it's mine to make. Comment, I stand for justice. If you'd never deny a child staring at you with your own eyes. Let's separate the real ones from cowards. Before the penthouse. Before Leo. Before everything shattered and reformed into something unrecognizable. There was just Zola. Zola Baptiste from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where humidity clung to your skin like a second layer and dreams cost more than most people could afford. She grew up in a shotgun house on the east side, where paint peeled like sunburned skin and the porch sagged under the weight of too many storms. Her mama cleaned houses. Her daddy drove trucks until his back gave out when Zola turned 12. Money was always tight. Always just short of enough. But Zola had something her circumstances couldn't touch. A hunger for more. Not greed. Just the bone-deep certainty that she wasn't meant to stay trapped in a neighborhood where potential went to die. She studied while her classmates partied, worked 2 jobs through high school, saved every dollar she could hide from her mama's medical bills and her daddy's pride. At 23, she bought a one-way bus ticket north with $300 in her pocket and a suitcase held together with duct tape. New York chewed her up and spit her out 6 times before she landed the housekeeping position at Weatherly Tower. The job was survival, nothing more. Clean the penthouses of people who'd never notice you. Smile politely. Don't ask questions. Don't make eye contact unless spoken to. Marcus Weatherly was everything Zola expected billionaires to be: cold, demanding, treating staff like furniture that occasionally needed replacing. He'd walk past her scrubbing floors without a glance, bark orders at his assistant about deals worth more than entire neighborhoods, take calls where he destroyed careers with 3 sentences and 0 remorse. Ruthless didn't begin to cover it, but sometimes, rare moments that felt like glitches in his programming, something else flickered through. Like the night she found him on his balcony at 2 a.m., still in a suit, staring at the city like it held answers he couldn't find. She'd been finishing the guest bathroom. Should have left quietly. Instead, she'd asked if he wanted coffee. He'd looked at her like he'd forgotten humans could ask questions instead of just following commands. Then, shocking them both, he'd said yes. They'd talked for 20 minutes. Nothing deep. Just 2 people awake when the world slept, sharing space and caffeine and the strange intimacy of exhaustion. He'd asked about Louisiana, why she left, what she wanted. She'd told him the truth, that she wanted to matter, to build something that couldn't be taken away by bad luck or worse timing. He'd gone quiet, then said something that stuck with her. Matching is overrated. Power is what survives. She disagreed. Told him matching to even one person meant more than ruling thousands who feared you. He'd looked at her then, really looked, like seeing her for the first time. The next morning, he went back to being marble and ice. Walked past her without recognition, barking into his phone about hostile takeovers and market manipulation. But something had shifted. 3 weeks later, he worked late. She stayed to finish the study. They ended up talking again, longer this time, deeper. About families that shaped you through absence. About success that felt hollow. About the cost of climbing high enough to see the whole world, but losing the ability to touch any of it. When he kissed her, it felt inevitable. Like 2 planets on collision course. Pulled by gravity neither could resist. What happened next was reckless. Stupid. The kind of mistake people make when loneliness weighs more than logic. Twice they fell into each other, desperate and hungry and pretending it could be simple. It never was. 6 weeks later, Zola stared at 2 pink lines that rewrote her entire future. Pregnant. The word felt foreign. Impossible. She was careful. They'd been careful. But careful wasn't foolproof, and biology didn't care about caution. She sat on the bathroom floor of her studio apartment for an hour, phone in her trembling hand, trying to find courage in the silence. Telling Marcus was terrifying, but not telling him felt worse. He had a right to know. And maybe, just maybe, he'd surprise her. Show that flicker of humanity she'd glimpsed on his balcony. Step up instead of stepping back. Hope was dangerous, but she clutched it anyway. She caught him leaving the building 3 days later, dressed in a suit that cost more than her yearly rent. He was on his phone, naturally, negotiating something that required numbers with too many zeros. Marcus. He glanced at her, recognition flickering for half a second before the mask slammed back. I'm busy. I need to talk to you. It's important. Schedule something with Ferris. It can't wait. Something in her tone made him pause. He ended his call with a clipped command to whoever was on the other end, then turned to face her fully. What? No warmth. No recognition of what they'd shared. Just impatience wrapped in expensive fabric. Zola's courage wavered. Can we go somewhere private? Here is fine. Make it quick. The lobby stretched around them, marble and glass and other staff pretending not to notice. This wasn't how she'd imagined this conversation. But nothing about this situation matched her imagination. "I'm pregnant." The words dropped between them like grenades with pulled pins. Marcus's face went blank. Not shocked. Not concerned. Just empty. And the coldness in that single word froze her blood. "And it's yours." His laugh came out sharp. "Ugly. Of course you'd say that. What? This is the play, right? Sleep with the rich guy, trap him with a pregnancy, cash out. I've seen this con 100 times." Zola felt the ground shift beneath her. "This isn't a con. I'm telling you because you have a right." "A right." His voice rose, drawing looks from across the lobby. "You have no idea what rights are. You think you can corner me here, drop this bomb, and I'll what? Propose? Write you a check. I don't want your money. Everyone wants my money. That's all anyone wants from me. I want you to know you're going to be a father." His face twisted with rage and something else, panic, maybe, or fear dressed up as anger. "Get rid of it." The words hit like physical blows. Zola stepped back, hand instinctively moving to her still flat stomach. "What? You heard me. Handle it. I'll pay for everything. Top doctors. Recovery time. Whatever you need. But this ends here. This is your child. This is a problem. And I'm offering you a solution." Tears burned Zola's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Not here. Not in front of him. I'm keeping the baby." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Then you're on your own. Don't contact me. Don't come to my home. Don't mention my name to anyone. Sign the NDA Ferris will send over. Take the settlement and disappear." "Marcus, you're fired, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. If you try to contact me again, my lawyers will bury you so deep you'll forget what sunlight looks like." He turned and walked away. Just like that. No hesitation. No backward glance. Zola stood there, hand on her stomach, watching the father of her child vanish into an elevator like she was nothing. Like they were nothing. Security approached with polite but firm instructions to collect her things. She left Weatherly Tower that day with a cardboard box of personal items and a check for $50,000. Hush money to make her and the problem growing inside her disappear. By the time she reached the street, tears were streaming down her face. But underneath the heartbreak, something harder formed. She'd raise this baby alone if she had to. Give them every ounce of love Marcus couldn't. Prove that power wasn't what survived. Love was. Leo was born on a Tuesday in March at Baton Rouge General, screaming his arrival with lungs that would have impressed opera singers. Zola held him for the first time and understood why people talk about love that breaks you open. This tiny person, 7 pounds, 4 ounces of wrinkled skin and dark hair, became her entire universe in a single breath. She named him Leo. Strong. Brave. A fighter. He'd need to be. The settlement money ran out faster than she planned. Rent. Medical bills. Diapers and formula, and all the tiny expenses that added up to mountains. She found work cleaning houses again, her mama's trade come full circle, taking Leo with her when she couldn't afford childcare. Some clients loved having a baby around. Others complained he was a distraction. Zola learned to work twice as fast, quiet as a ghost. Leo strapped to her chest while she scrubbed toilets and mopped floors. Nights were the hardest. Leo would cry, colicky and inconsolable, and Zola would pace their cramped apartment, wondering if she'd made the right choice. If keeping him had been selfish. If Marcus's cold rejection had been right and she'd doomed both of them to struggle. Then Leo would stop crying and look at her with those steel gray eyes, and every doubt evaporated. He was worth it. Worth everything. The months blurred together. Leo learned to smile at 3 months. Laughed at 6. Started crawling at 8. Determined and fearless, getting into everything. He was smart. Scary smart. By his first birthday, He was saying words other babies took 18 months to master. And he looked more like Marcus every day. Same intense stare. Same stubborn determination. Same tiny dimple that appeared when he smiled at people he trusted. Zola would catch herself staring at Leo and seeing the man who'd rejected them both. It hurt. But it also reminded her what she was fighting for. Leo deserved to know his father. Not the cold billionaire who'd sent her away, but the man she'd glimpsed on that balcony. The one capable of humanity when he let his guard down. She'd almost called Marcus a dozen times. Phone in hand, number typed, finger hovering over the dial button. But fear always stopped her. What if he rejected Leo the way he'd rejected her? What if he tried to take Leo away? What if, worst of all, he didn't care at all? Better to raise Leo alone than risk that kind of destruction. Except, Leo started saying dada at 14 months. Not directed at anyone, just testing the word, like he knew it should mean something but couldn't figure out what. It broke Zola's heart every time. At 16 months, he saw a father and son at the playground. The dad was pushing his kid on a swing, both of them laughing. Leo watched with such intense focus that Zola felt it like a punch to the gut. Dada? Leo asked, pointing. Yes, baby. That's his daddy. My dada. The question shattered something in Zola. Leo deserved the truth. Deserved the chance to know where he came from. Even if Marcus rejected him, at least Leo would know Zola had tried. She started saving again. Every dollar she could scrape together went into the New York fund. It took 3 months to save enough for bus tickets and a week's rent at a cheap hotel. The night before they left, Zola sat on the floor of their apartment with Leo asleep in her lap, second-guessing everything. This could go so wrong. Marcus could have them arrested for harassment. Could break Leo's heart before the kid was old enough to understand heartbreak. But the alternative, raising Leo in silence, letting him grow up wondering, felt worse. She packed their few belongings in the same duct-tape suitcase she'd used to escape Baton Rouge years ago. Full circle. Except this time, she wasn't running toward something better. She was walking straight into the fire, hoping it wouldn't consume them both. The bus ride took 32 hours. Leo slept through most of it, curled against Zola's chest, oblivious to the gamble she was taking with both their futures. New York hit her like a slap, all noise and crowds, and that specific smell of garbage and ambition. Nothing had changed. The city still chewed people up and spit them out without apology. Zola checked into a hotel in Queens that barely qualified as habitable. Peeling wallpaper. Suspicious stains. But it was cheap and close enough to Manhattan that she could reach Weatherly Tower without wasting money on cabs. She spent 2 days working up courage. Walked past the building 3 times before admitting she was stalling. Watched from across the street as people who looked important streamed in and out of a lobby in their expensive suits and confident strides. Marcus's world. A place she'd never belonged. On the 3rd day, she dressed Leo in his nicest outfit, a clearance onesie that almost looked expensive if you didn't look too close, and headed for Weatherly Tower. Her hands shook as she pushed through the revolving doors. The lobby was exactly as she remembered. Marble that reflected light like frozen water. Security guards with earpieces and expressions that said they'd seen everything. The elevator bank where she used to arrive at 5 a.m. before anyone important showed up. She moved toward the elevators, Leo on her hip, heart hammering, so hard she thought people might hear it. Can I help you? Security. Young guy, professional smile that didn't reach his eyes. I'm here to see Marcus Weatherly. Do you have an appointment? No, but Mr. Weatherly doesn't take unscheduled meetings. You can contact his office to schedule. Please. It's important. It's about his son. The guard's expression shifted, subtle, but Zola caught it. Pity maybe. Or judgment. Hard to tell. Wait here. He walked to his desk and made a call. Zola couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw his face change. Saw him glance at her, and Leo with something that looked like discomfort. He returned a minute later. Mr. Weatherly's assistant will be down shortly. Not Marcus. His assistant. Of course. Zola moved to a bench and waited, Leo getting restless in her arms. The baby wanted to crawl, explore, touch all the shiny surfaces. She kept him contained, whispering promises about playing later. 10 minutes crawled by. Then Ferris emerged from the elevator bank. Same sharp suit, same sharper eyes that had watched her get escorted out 18 months ago. He approached without warmth. Ms. Baptiste. I need to see Marcus. Mr. Weatherly is unavailable. This is about his son. Ferris glanced at Leo with the expression someone might give a pest. You signed an NDA. Violating it has serious legal consequences. I'm not violating anything. I'm bringing his son to meet him. You were compensated for your situation. Generously. Coming here is harassment. Zola stood, anger replacing fear. His son deserves to know his father. What he deserves is irrelevant. You made your choice. Now live with it. He turned to leave. Tell Marcus I'll be at his penthouse tonight at 7, Zola called after him. If he doesn't want to see Leo, he can tell me himself. Ferris paused, looked back with cold assessment. Security will remove you if you attempt entry. Then I'll wait in the lobby until he comes down. I'll wait every day if I have to. Something shifted in Ferris's expression. Calculation replacing dismissal. He pulled out his phone, typed rapidly, then pocketed it. 7 p.m. penthouse. You have 10 minutes. After that, I'm calling the police. He walked away before Zola could respond. She stood there, holding Leo, realizing she'd just won a battle, but the war was still ahead. What she didn't know, couldn't know, was that Ferris had already sent Marcus a message. The maid is back. She has a child. Claims it's yours. I'm handling it. And Marcus, in a board meeting 47 floors above, had read that message and felt his carefully controlled world begin to crack. If you think Leo deserves his father regardless of past mistakes, let me know you're still here. Subscribe before the next chapter drops. You won't want to miss what Marcus does next. Marcus stood in his living room, holding Leo, and the world had stopped making sense. The baby weighed nothing, maybe 20 pounds soaking wet, but felt heavier than every decision Marcus had ever made. Heavier than hostile takeovers and billion-dollar mergers, and the crushing weight of building an empire from inherited wealth. Leo grabbed Marcus's tie and pulled. Hard. No, Marcus started, then stopped himself. What was he supposed to do? Scold the baby? The absurdity of the situation hit him like vertigo. Leo giggled at Marcus's confused expression, delighted by his own power. He yanked the tie again, then shoved the silk end in his mouth. He does that, Zola said from across the room. Puts everything in his mouth. You have to watch him constantly. Marcus carefully extracted his tie from Leo's grip. The baby protested with a whine, reaching for the shiny fabric again. How old is he? 18 months. Almost 19. Marcus did the math automatically. 18 months back put conception at exactly when he told himself it meant nothing. When he'd convinced himself 2 nights of weakness didn't create consequences. Except here was the consequence, drooling on his $1,200 suit. Leo squirmed, wanting down. Marcus held tighter, uncertain, and the baby's face scrunched with frustration. You can put him down, Zola said. He won't break. Marcus set Leo on the floor carefully, like handling explosives. The baby immediately crawled toward the floor-to-ceiling windows, attracted by the city lights starting to glow as dusk settled. He shouldn't be near the glass. It's reinforced. He's fine. But Marcus followed anyway, some instinct he didn't recognize pulling him toward the small person approaching his windows. Leo reached the glass and pressed both hands against it, making handprints on the surface Marcus's cleaning crew kept spotless. The baby looked out at the city 47 floors below and laughed. Pure joy. No fear. Just wonder at the lights spreading below him like scattered stars. Marcus crouched beside him. You like that? Leo turned and looked at Marcus with those unsettling eyes, too familiar, too knowing for someone who'd barely existed longer than a year and a half. Up, Leo said, reaching for Marcus again. You were just up. Up. The demand in that tiny voice made Marcus almost laugh. Almost. That commanding tone, that refusal to accept no, that was pure Weatherly genetics. He picked Leo up and held him at window height. The baby pressed his face against the glass, fogging it with his breath, then laughed when his reflection appeared in the fog. "Da-da," Leo said, patting the window where Marcus's reflection appeared next to his. Marcus's chest tightened. "I'm not." But Leo turned and looked right at him, close enough that Marcus could see the gold flecks in those gray eyes, could see the exact angle of his own nose replicated in miniature, could see his grandmother's chin and his father's ears and his own stubborn expression. Denial became exhausting. "Say something else," Marcus heard himself whisper. Leo tilted his head, considering, then pointed at Marcus's watch, vintage Patek Philippe, worth more than most cars. "Shiny." The word came out garbled, but clear enough. Marcus looked at Zola. "He can talk. Some. He's ahead of most kids his age. Picks up words fast." Leo grabbed the watch and studied it with intense focus, turning Marcus's wrist to catch the light. The concentration on his face, that absolute absorption in figuring out how something worked, sent chills down Marcus's spine. He'd looked exactly like that as a child. His mother had photos. Hours spent taking apart clocks and radios, desperate to understand the mechanics underneath. Leo looked up at Marcus and smiled. "Mine." "No. Mine." "Mine." Leo insisted, laughing like it was a game. Despite everything, the shock, the denial, the fear of what this meant, Marcus felt his mouth twitch. Almost a smile. Ferris cleared his throat from across the room, shattering the moment. "Sir, I've prepared the settlement papers." "More than generous." "She signs leaves tonight, and this situation resolves itself." Marcus looked at the papers in Ferris's hand, then down at Leo, who was now trying to put the watch in his mouth. "He's teething," Zola said. "Sorry. Everything goes in the mouth right now." Marcus gently extracted his watch from Leo's grip. The baby protested, then got distracted by Marcus's cufflink instead. "The papers, sir," Ferris pressed. "Not yet. Every minute you delay makes this harder, legally and personally." Marcus knew Ferris was right. Every second he spent with Leo made the logical choice: pay her off, send them away, go back to his controlled life, feel more impossible. Leo yawned suddenly, a huge jaw-cracking yawn that made him look like a tiny angry lion. Then he laid his head on Marcus's shoulder, just dropped it there, casual and trusting, like Marcus had been holding him his whole short life. Marcus froze. The weight of Leo's head against his shoulder, the warmth of the small body in his arms, the soft baby shampoo smell mixed with something sweet. It all crashed through his defenses like a wrecking ball through paper. "He's tired," Zola said quietly. "It's past his bedtime. We should go." "Wait." Marcus's voice came out rough. "Just wait." Leo's eyes were already drooping, fighting sleep the way babies do, convinced they'll miss something important if they give in. Marcus walked slowly toward the couch, each step careful, like carrying something infinitely precious. He sat down, and Leo curled against him, thumb finding its way to his mouth. Within 30 seconds, the baby was asleep. Marcus stared down at him, at the small chest rising and falling, at the tiny hand clutching Marcus's shirt, at the face that looked so much like his own childhood photos, it felt like time travel. "This can't be happening," Marcus whispered. But it was. It already had. Subscribe now if you can't stand watching people escape responsibility. Only trolls would skip this. Are you one of them? Marcus didn't move for 20 minutes. Just sat there with Leo sleeping against him, barely breathing, terrified that any movement would wake the baby and break whatever spell had fallen over the penthouse. Zola had settled into a chair across from him, watching with unreadable eyes. Ferris had disappeared into the study, probably preparing legal documents to make this problem vanish. But problems that breathed and drooled and said daddy didn't vanish on paper. Leo shifted in his sleep, making a small sound, not quite a whimper, not quite a sigh. His hand tightened on Marcus's shirt. Does he always sleep like this? Marcus asked quietly. Like what? Like he's holding on. Zola's expression softened. He's a cuddler. Hates sleeping alone. I've tried getting him to sleep in his crib, but he always ends up in my bed. Marcus tried to imagine that, this small person crawling into bed, seeking warmth and safety. Tried to imagine 18 months of nights Zola had faced alone. Why now, he asked. Why not sooner? I was scared. Of what? Of this. Of you rejecting him. Of him getting old enough to remember the rejection. Zola leaned forward, but he started asking about his father. Not in words, but in the way he'd watch other dads at the playground. Like he knew something was missing. Leo's eyelids fluttered but didn't open. Dreaming, maybe. About what? Marcus couldn't imagine. Did babies dream? Did they process the chaos of existence in sleep? What if I'm not good at this? Marcus said, surprising himself with the admission. At what? This. Fatherhood. I don't know how to. He gestured helplessly at the sleeping baby. I run companies. I understand markets and hostile takeovers and profit margins. This is different. It's supposed to be different. I could ruin him. Zola's laugh came out bitter. You already tried that by sending us away. At least now you're trying. The words hit like an accusation because that's what they were. Marcus had ruined this before it started. Paid Zola off. Threatened her with lawyers, pretended his actions didn't create a whole human being. Leo made that sound again, shifting closer to Marcus's warmth. He trusts you already, Zola said softly. Look at him. He doesn't trust easy. Took him 3 months to warm up to my neighbor who babysits. But with you? Instant. Maybe he's just tired. Or maybe blood recognizes blood. Marcus looked down at Leo's face, peaceful in sleep, all the sharp edges of personality smoothed away. He looked even more like Marcus like this. Same thick eyelashes. Same slight frown even while dreaming. Without thinking, Marcus brushed hair off Leo's forehead. The gesture felt foreign and natural at the same time, like muscle memory for something he'd never done. Leo's eyes opened slowly, blinked. Focused on Marcus. For a second, confusion crossed his face. That moment babies have when they wake somewhere unexpected. Then recognition clicked, and he smiled. Dada. Not a question this time. A statement. A fact. Marcus's throat tightened. Hey. Leo sat up, still on Marcus's lap, and patted Marcus's face with both hands. Exploring. Memorizing. His tiny fingers traced Marcus's jaw, his nose, his eyebrows, mapping the face that looked so much like his own. Then Leo laughed and threw his arms around Marcus's neck in a clumsy hug. Marcus's arms came up automatically, holding him, keeping him safe. And something inside Marcus, something he'd kept locked and controlled his entire adult life, cracked wide open. I don't want you to go, Marcus heard himself say. Zola's eyes widened. What? Stay. Tonight. Let me, he struggled for words. Let me figure this out. Figure what out? How to be what he needs. Leo pulled back and looked at Marcus seriously, like a judge considering a verdict. Then he nodded, solemn and certain, and laid his head back on Marcus's shoulder. Decision made, apparently. Zola stood slowly. We're staying at a hotel in Queens. We can come back tomorrow. No. Stay here. Marcus looked around his pristine penthouse, all sharp edges and expensive furniture and nothing soft enough for a baby. I have guest rooms. You can. Marcus. Please. The word felt foreign in his mouth. Marcus Weatherly didn't say please. Didn't ask. Commanded. But this was different. Zola studied him for a long moment. Looking for manipulation, maybe. For the trap she assumed must be waiting. Finally, she nodded. One night. We'll see how it goes. Leo, apparently satisfied with this arrangement, promptly fell back asleep on Marcus's shoulder. And Marcus, who'd never held a baby before tonight, who'd spent 18 months denying this child existed, realized he never wanted to let go. Ferris watched from the study doorway, phone pressed to his ear, voice low. Yes, I'm looking at him right now, holding the kid like it's natural. The voice on the other end, sharp, female, expensive, responded with displeasure. We anticipated this possibility, Ferris continued. Paternal instinct is predictable, but manageable. He ended the call and stepped back into the living room, composing his features into professional neutrality. Marcus looked up. Clear the schedule for tomorrow. I'm staying home. Sir, you have the Nakamura meeting. They flew in from Tokyo specifically. Reschedule. The board won't. I don't care what the board thinks. Marcus's voice carried an edge Ferris recognized. The tone that meant argument was pointless. I'm taking the day. Handle it. Ferris's jaw tightened imperceptibly. Of course. He moved toward the bar, pouring himself 2 fingers of whiskey Marcus kept for guests. Took a slow sip while watching Marcus and Leo like a chess player studying the board. You realize what this looks like, Ferris said carefully. What looks like? You, with her baby, playing house. The press will have a field day. Your competitors will see weakness. My competitors can go to. Marcus glanced at Leo. They can deal with it. Victoria won't. The name hung in the air like poison gas. Marcus's face hardened. Victoria has no say in my personal life. She has a say in the company. Her family owns 30% of the voting shares. Ferris took another sip. She's already asked questions about who this woman is, why she's in your building, how long this has been going on. Zola looked between them, confused. Who's Victoria? No one, Marcus said quickly. His fiancée, Ferris corrected. The word landed like a grenade. Zola went pale. You're engaged. Not officially. It's complicated. Seems pretty simple from where I'm standing. Zola's voice turned ice. You've got a woman, a deal, a future all planned out. We're just the inconvenient mistake. That's not. Victoria Montgomery, Ferris continued, ignoring Marcus's warning look. Daughter of Montgomery Industries. The engagement hasn't been announced yet, but both families have agreed. It's a strategic merger as much as a marriage. Leo stirred at the rising voices, sensing tension. He lifted his head and looked at Zola, then Marcus, confused by the sudden shift in energy. Marcus stood carefully, still holding Leo. Ferris, enough. I'm protecting you, sir. Like I always have. Ferris set down his glass. This situation threatens everything we've built. Your reputation, your business relationships, your future with Victoria and her family's resources. Resources I don't need, but want. You've been planning the Montgomery merger for 2 years, counting on their manufacturing contracts to expand into Asia. Marcus looked at Leo, who was watching the conversation like he understood more than babies should. Those intelligent eyes moving between speakers, absorbing tension like a sponge. Some things are more important than expansion, Marcus said quietly. Ferris's expression flickered. Surprise, then calculation. You're not thinking clearly. That child has been here 3 hours, and you're ready to blow up your entire life. Maybe my entire life needed blowing up. Sir. Get out, Ferris. Silence crashed through the penthouse. Ferris straightened, his professional mask slipping for just a moment. Underneath was something cold, something threatened. I've worked for you for 7 years, Ferris said slowly. I've buried scandals, covered mistakes, protected you from yourself more times than I can count. Don't throw that away for my son? The words hung there, undeniable now. Said out loud. Made real. Ferris's face went flat. You're making a mistake. Then it's mine to make. Ferris grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Paused with his hand on the handle. When this falls apart, and it will, don't say, I didn't warn you. He left, the door closing with precise, controlled anger. Leo watched the door, then looked up at Marcus. Bad man. The question, so innocent, so intuitive, made Marcus almost laugh. Yeah, kiddo. Maybe he is. Hit like if you can't tolerate manipulators or bullies winning over truth. Let them know we see through their games. Marcus barely slept. He'd set Zola and Leo up in the guest suite, the one with actual soft furniture and windows that didn't terrify him when Leo got too close. Offered them anything they needed. Fresh clothes, food, his entire kitchen at their disposal. Then he'd retreated to his bedroom and stared at the ceiling until dawn. Every logical part of his brain said this was insane. One day ago, he didn't have a son. Now he was rearranging his life for a baby who might not even be his. Except he was. Deep in Marcus's bones, he knew. But knowing and proving were different things. At 6 a.m., Marcus called his personal physician. By 8, Dr. Chun arrived at the penthouse with a discreet DNA testing kit. Zola emerged from the guest room with Leo just as Dr. Chun set up in the living room. The baby looked rumpled and sleepy, clutching a stuffed animal Marcus didn't recognize. What's this? Zola asked, voice carefully neutral. DNA test. I need to be certain. Something flashed across Zola's face. Hurt, maybe, or resignation. Fine. Do it. Dr. Chun was professional and efficient. Swabbed Leo's cheek while the baby tried to grab the cotton stick, making it into a game. Then Marcus's. Results in 48 hours, Dr. Chun said, packing up. I'll call the moment they're ready. After he left, silence filled the penthouse like smoke. Leo, oblivious to the tension, crawled toward Marcus's bookshelf, floor-to-ceiling volumes. Marcus had collected more for appearance than actual reading. The baby pulled himself up using the bottom shelf and grabbed a leather-bound first edition. No, Marcus lunged forward, catching the book before Leo could destroy something worth 5 figures. Leo's face crumpled, ready to cry. Hey, no, it's okay. Marcus knelt down. Just not that one. He looked around, spotted a magazine on the coffee table. Financial Times. Close enough. He handed it to Leo. The baby's face lit up. He sat down hard on his bottom and started ripping pages with absolute glee, giggling at the destruction. He's going to think he can do that with all books now, Zola said. But there was a smile in her voice. Marcus watched Leo shred financial analysis into confetti. That's fine. Most of those books are boring anyway. Leo looked up at Marcus, then at the bookshelf. Pointed at a thick volume on the 3rd shelf. Tao, he said clearly. Marcus blinked. What? Tao. Leo pointed more insistently. Marcus looked where he was pointing. The spine read Dow Jones, a historical analysis. Did he just read that? Zola moved closer, frowning. He can't read. He's 18 months old. But Leo kept pointing. Dow, Dow, Dow. Marcus pulled the book down. On the cover, in large letters, Dow Jones. He opened to a random page and pointed at a word. What's this? Leo leaned forward, studying it with that intense focus. T. He gave up, distracted by a picture of a stock market floor. He recognizes letters, Zola said, sounding amazed. I didn't know he could do that. Marcus flipped through the book, stopping on pages with images. Leo pointed at each one, babbling commentary that sounded almost like real analysis if you didn't listen too closely. Then Leo pointed at a photo of the New York Stock Exchange trading floor and said something that made Marcus's blood run cold. Data work. Marcus looked at the image. Hundreds of traders in a chaos of buying and selling. Looked at Leo, who seemed genuinely curious about whether this was where his father spent his days. No, I work from here, mostly. Or in an office downtown. Show. Leo demanded. Show you where I work? Yes. The enthusiasm in that single word made Marcus's decision easy. Okay, we'll go. Later. Leo threw his arms up in celebration, nearly losing his balance. Marcus caught him automatically, pulling him close. The baby hugged him back, fierce and certain. Over Leo's head, Marcus met Zola's eyes. 48 hours, she said quietly. Yeah. What happens if? She couldn't finish the sentence. But Marcus knew what she was asking. What happens if the test somehow says no? If biology denies what his instincts already know? He looked down at Leo, at the small face pressed against his chest, at the absolute trust radiating from this tiny person. He's mine, Marcus said. Test or no test? I know. And for the first time in 18 months, Zola let herself believe him. The DNA results are coming. Will they confirm what we all see? Or will doubt tear this family apart before it starts? Stay subscribed. The next chapter changes everything. The call came at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday that felt like it lasted 3 years. Marcus had been on the floor with Leo, stacking blocks the baby immediately knocked over with gleeful destruction, building and destroying, over and over. Some kind of metaphor for Marcus's life, probably. His phone buzzed. Dr. Chen's name lit up the screen. Marcus's hand froze halfway to a blue block. I need to take this, he said to Zola, who was watching from the couch. She nodded, face carefully blank, but her fingers gripped the armrest tight enough to leave marks. Marcus stepped onto the balcony, sliding the glass door shut behind him. The city spread below. Millions of people living millions of lives, none of them waiting for news that would rewrite their existence. Dr. Chun. Mr. Weatherly. The results are conclusive. A pause that felt like falling. Leo is your biological son. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. The words hit Marcus like physics, undeniable, immutable, absolute. He'd known. Somewhere deep, he'd been certain from the moment Leo said daddy, with those eyes that mirrored his own. But knowing and having science confirm it were different earthquakes. Mr. Weatherly? Are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Marcus's voice came out rough. Thank you. Email me the full report. He ended the call and stood there 47 floors above the world, holding proof that 18 months ago he'd made the worst decision of his life. He'd had a son. A living, breathing human being who shared his DNA, his eyes, his stubborn determination. And Marcus had paid to make him disappear. The shame hit, so hard his knees nearly buckled. Inside, through the glass, Leo had abandoned the blocks and was crawling toward the balcony door, calling Dada. Dada, like Marcus had been gone years instead of minutes. Marcus slid the door open. Leo launched himself at Marcus's legs, hugging them with all the strength in his tiny body, looking up with absolute trust, absolute certainty that Marcus would always come back. Trust Marcus hadn't earned, hadn't deserved. The results came? Zola asked quietly. Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. And, he's mine. The words cracked coming out. He's my son. Zola's eyes filled, but no tears fell. I know. I'm sorry. Marcus scooped Leo up, held him close. God, Zola, I'm so sorry. I sent you away, threatened you with lawyers, tried to erase him like he was a mistake on a balance sheet. He was never a mistake. I know that now. Marcus looked at Leo, at the face that would have grown up never knowing him. But I didn't then. I was scared, thought I could control everything, including biology and consequences. Leo patted Marcus's face, sensing distress. Sad. The question destroyed Marcus. This baby, this small person he'd rejected, was worried about him, trying to comfort him. Yeah, buddy, I'm sad. Because I hurt you and your mama, and I can't take it back. Hug. Leo wrapped his arms around Marcus's neck and squeezed. And Marcus, who'd spent 34 years building walls around his emotions, who'd turned feelings into weaknesses to eliminate, broke completely. He sat down hard on the couch, Leo still clutching him, and let the tears come. For 18 months lost. For first words he'd missed. For nights Zola faced alone while he pretended they didn't exist. For the man he'd been and the father he should have become. Zola sat beside him, hand hesitating, then settling on his shoulder. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But acknowledgement that guilt was a starting point. Leo pulled back and looked at Marcus's face, confused by the tears. Touched one gently. Dada cry. Yeah, Dada's crying. Why? How do you explain regret to someone who's existed less than 2 years? How do you tell them your morning time you threw away? Because I love you, Marcus said. And I should have loved you sooner. Leo considered this with that serious expression he got when processing new information. Then he kissed Marcus's cheek. Wet, sloppy, perfect. Love, Dada. 3 words. 13 letters. Complete devastation. Marcus pulled Leo close and made a promise against his son's soft hair. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be the father you deserve. I don't know how yet, but I'll figure it out. Zola's hand tightened on his shoulder. You already started. Marcus looked at her, at the woman he'd treated like disposable help, who'd raised their son with strength he couldn't comprehend, who'd come back despite every reason to stay away. How do you not hate me? I did. For months. She pulled her hand back, wrapped her arms around herself. But hate takes energy I needed for Leo. So I let it go and focused on raising him right. You did. He's incredible. He's yours too. Half you, whether you were there or not. Leo wiggled free and crawled toward his stuffed animal across the room, bored with adult emotion. Crisis over, apparently. Time to play. Marcus watched him go, the confident crawl, the determination, the fearless way he approached the world. His son. Not a concept anymore. Not a possibility. A fact. A responsibility. A second chance Marcus didn't deserve but would spend the rest of his life earning. The next morning, Marcus woke to find Leo standing beside his bed. Just standing there. Silent. Staring at Marcus like a tiny, judgmental ghost. Marcus nearly jumped out of his skin. How did you? He climbs. Zola's voice came from the doorway. Sorry. I woke up and he was gone. Gave me a heart attack. Leo grinned, proud of his escape. Dada. Up. Marcus sat up, running hands through his hair. What time is it? 6. He's an early riser. Does he do this every morning? Pretty much. Get used to it. Leo grabbed Marcus's blanket and pulled. Up. Play. Okay. Marcus scooped him up, and Leo immediately started bouncing in his arms with manic morning energy. This was fatherhood. Not the grand gestures or emotional moments. Just a baby with too much energy at 6 a.m., demanding attention with the certainty of someone who knew he'd get it. I'll make coffee, Zola said. You've got him. Marcus looked at Leo, who was now trying to stick his finger up Marcus's nose. Yeah, I've got him. After Zola left, Marcus carried Leo to the living room, set him down with toys scattered across the floor, things Marcus had ordered overnight in a panic. Blocks, stuffed animals, plastic keys that made noise. Leo ignored all of it and went straight for Marcus's laptop on the coffee table. No, that's not. Marcus caught it before Leo could destroy 3 years of work. Here, play with this instead. He handed Leo the plastic keys. They lit up and played a tinny version of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Leo examined them with deep skepticism, then threw them across the room. Okay, not a fan. Got it. For the next 20 minutes, Marcus learned what held Leo's attention. Not expensive toys. Not things designed for babies. But real objects. Marcus's watch. His phone. A pen that Leo immediately tried to draw on the couch with until Marcus stopped him. The kid wanted to understand how things worked. Wanted to take them apart, manipulate them, master them. Weatherly genetics in action. You're going to be trouble, Marcus said, retrieving the pen. Aren't you? Leo looked up at him and grinned. Trouble. Did he just repeat that? Zola appeared with coffee, looking amused. Told you. He picks up everything. Be careful what you say around him. Marcus took the coffee gratefully. How do you do this every day? You just do. No choice. I want to help. Zola sat across from him, studying his face. Help how? However you need. Money, obviously. But more than that. I want to be here. Present. Actually raise him, not just write checks. That's a big commitment for someone who kicked us out 18 months ago. The words were harsh, but fair. Marcus deserved worse. I know. And I know saying sorry doesn't fix it. But I'm trying to show you I mean it. Leo crawled between them, sensing tension again. He looked at Zola, then Marcus, then pulled himself up using Marcus's knee. Data work. Marcus looked at his watch. 7 a.m. Usually he'd be in the office by now, closing deals and crushing competitors. Not today. Today, I'm staying with you. Play. Yeah, buddy. We can play. Leo's face lit up. He toddled toward his toys, grabbed a stuffed elephant, and brought it back to Marcus. Elephant, Leo said carefully, showing off. Marcus took it. Elephant. That's right. Leo beamed. Then he brought a stuffed giraffe. Giraffe. One by one, Leo brought every toy to Marcus, naming them with varying degrees of success. Each time Marcus confirmed the name, Leo would nod seriously, like they were conducting important business. He's teaching you, Zola said softly. Teaching me what? His world. Letting you in. Marcus looked at the pile of toys accumulating at his feet. At Leo, who'd moved on to showing Marcus how to stack blocks the right way. At Zola, who was watching with cautious hope. This was what he'd almost thrown away. This weird, beautiful, exhausting reality of someone needing you. I'll clear my calendar for the next 2 weeks, Marcus said. Stay home. Learn how to do this. Zola raised an eyebrow. Your board will have a stroke. They'll survive. This is more important. Leo climbed into Marcus's lap uninvited, settled in like he owned the space, and shoved the elephant in Marcus's face. Elephant, he repeated firmly. Elephant, Marcus agreed. And just like that, the rebuilding began. The letter arrived 3 days later. Plain envelope. No return address. Delivered to the front desk with instructions to bring it directly to Marcus. He opened it standing in his kitchen while Leo destroyed a bowl of scrambled eggs at the table. Inside, copies of emails, text messages, phone records, all from Ferris. Marcus's hands went cold as he read. The paternity situation requires permanent resolution. Victoria's family cannot know about the child. I've contacted legal. NDA violation claims ready to file. We can have her arrested if necessary. If gentle methods fail, I have other options. The child's safety is regrettable but necessary collateral. The last message was dated 2 days ago. Sent to a number Marcus didn't recognize. His vision tunneled. Ferris hadn't just been advising Marcus to deny Leo. He'd been actively plotting to eliminate them. To threaten. 2. The words safety and collateral in the same sentence made Marcus's stomach turn. What's wrong? Zola had entered the kitchen, saw his face, went pale. Marcus. He handed her the papers wordlessly. She read them, her expression shifting from confusion to horror to rage. He threatened Leo? I don't think he'd actually, but Marcus stopped himself. Did he really know what Ferris was capable of? 7 years working together. And suddenly Marcus realized he didn't know this man at all. You need to call the police, Zola said, voice shaking. I will. But first I need to. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Weatherly. A woman's voice, sharp and cold. Mr. Weatherly. We haven't been properly introduced. I'm Victoria Montgomery. I believe we need to talk about your situation. Marcus's blood turned to ice. How did you? Your assistant has been very informative. He's quite concerned about your recent instability. A baby appearing out of nowhere. A former employee claiming paternity. Very messy. Ferris contacted you. He contacted my father, actually. They're meeting as we speak, discussing how to handle this unfortunate complication before our families announce the merger. There is no merger, and no engagement. Victoria laughed, cold, practiced. That's adorable. You think you have a choice. My family owns 30% of your company. One word from my father to the board, and you'll be voted out of your own business. In the background, Leo banged his spoon on the table, oblivious to the threat materializing around him. Listen carefully, Victoria continued. You will remove that woman and her child from your life. You will sign the engagement papers my father is preparing. And you will stop this embarrassing display of sentimentality before it costs both our families millions. Or what? Or we destroy you. Professionally. Financially. Your reputation, your business, everything you've built. And once you're broken, we'll still get what we want. The merger will happen. You'll just be significantly poorer and more cooperative. Marcus looked at Leo, sticky hands, egg in his hair, grinning at him with absolute trust. His son. His family. No, Marcus said quietly. Excuse me. I said no. You and your father and Ferris can all go to hell. I'm not abandoning my son. Not for money. Not for power. Not for anything. Victoria's voice dropped to something dangerous. You're making a very expensive mistake. I've made plenty of those. This isn't one of them. He ended the call. Silence filled the kitchen like pressure before storm. Marcus, Zola whispered. What did you just do? I chose you. Both of you. He picked up his phone again. Now I'm calling my lawyers. And the police. And every board member who isn't in the Montgomery's pocket. They'll destroy you. Maybe. But I'll still have Leo. That's enough. Leo, sensing his name, looked up. Dada. I'm here, buddy. And I'm not going anywhere. If you stand with families over fake power plays, drop a comment. Let these manipulators know we see their games. Marcus walked into his office at Weatherly Tower for the first time in 5 days. Ferris looked up from his desk in the outer office, surprised. Sir, I wasn't expecting. Conference room. Now. Something in Marcus's voice made Ferris's professional mask slip. Just for a second. Long enough to reveal calculation underneath. They walked in silence. Marcus closed the door behind them. I got a call from Victoria Montgomery yesterday, Marcus said. I can explain. You've been feeding information to the Montgomerys. About Zola. About Leo. About my personal life that you had no right to share. Ferris straightened his tie, regaining composure. I was protecting your interests. My interests? The merger with Montgomery Industries is worth billions. Your legacy. Your empire expansion. I couldn't let you throw that away for my son? For a complication that could be quietly resolved. Marcus pulled out the printed emails from his jacket. Threw them on the conference table. Ferris's face went white. Permanent resolution, Marcus read. The child's safety is regrettable but necessary collateral. Want to explain that? You're taking it out of context. Context. Right. Marcus leaned forward. Did you or did you not threaten my son? I never threatened anyone. I was exploring options to protect you from. From what? From being a father? From taking responsibility for my actions. Ferris's composure cracked. From ruining everything we built. 7 years I've worked for you. Buried your scandals. Cleaned up your messes. Made you untouchable. And you're throwing it all away for a woman who scrubbed your floors and a baby that. Marcus's fist hit the table hard enough to rattle the glass. Finish that sentence. I dare you. Ferris went silent. You're fired, Marcus said. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. And if you or the Montgomerys or anyone else goes near my family, I will use every resource I have to bury you so deep you'll forget what daylight looks like. You can't fire me. I know too much. Which is why I've already filed police reports about your threats, shared your emails with my legal team, and sent copies to every board member. You're done, Ferris. For the first time in 7 years, Marcus saw real fear in his assistant's eyes. The Montgomerys will come after you, Ferris said quietly. They won't stop. Let them try. They'll vote you out. Take everything. They can have the company. I'll build another one. Ferris laughed, bitter, sharp. You think you can just walk away? Start over? You're nothing without Weatherly Industries. It's your whole identity. Marcus thought about Leo's laugh, about the way he said dada like it was the most important word in any language, about Zola's cautious trust starting to rebuild. You're right, Marcus said. I was nothing but Weatherly Industries. Just money and power and emptiness. But I've got something worth more now. A baby who'll grow up knowing you chose poverty over power. A son who'll grow up knowing I chose him. That's the difference between us, Ferris. You see relationships as transactions. I'm finally learning they're the only thing that actually matters. Security knocked on the door. Marcus opened it. Escort Mr. Ferris out of the building. He no longer works here. Ferris gathered his dignity like armor. This isn't over. Yeah, it is. They watched him leave. 7 years of partnership ending with security guards and silence. Marcus pulled out his phone. Called Zola. Hey, everything okay? Her voice carried worry. Yeah, Ferris is gone. The Montgomerys might still come after us. But we'll handle it together, she interrupted. However it comes. Together, Marcus repeated, and the word felt like a vow. In the background, he heard Leo babbling, probably destroying something expensive. I'm coming home, Marcus said. Home. Yeah. To you and Leo. That's home now. Silence. Then Zola's voice, soft but certain. Okay, we'll be here. Marcus ended the call and looked out at the city. The empire he'd built, the power he'd accumulated. All of it suddenly less important than getting back to a penthouse where his son was probably finger-painting the walls. He smiled and headed for the elevator. What would you sacrifice for family? Drop your thoughts below. Let's see who really understands what matters. Marcus learned fatherhood in the quiet moments nobody warns you about. Like Leo refusing to eat anything except chicken nuggets shaped like dinosaurs. 3 days straight. Nothing else. Just dinosaurs. He needs vegetables, Marcus said, staring at the plate of rejected broccoli. Good luck with that, Zola replied from the couch, hiding a smile. Marcus looked at Leo, who looked back with those stubborn, Weatherly eyes. A standoff neither would win. If you eat 1 piece of broccoli, I'll eat 5 chicken nuggets. Leo considered this deal with the seriousness of a merger negotiation. Then picked up the smallest piece of broccoli, touched it to his tongue, and made a face like Marcus had offered him poison. Deal's off apparently, Marcus muttered. But Leo grinned and shoved the broccoli in his mouth, chewing with exaggerated disgust. Then pointed at Marcus's plate expectantly. You're serious? I have to eat 5 nuggets now. Deal, Leo declared, already learning the power of binding agreements. Marcus ate 5 dinosaur-shaped nuggets, while his son watched with satisfaction. Business negotiations had nothing on this kid's strategic thinking. Mornings became their routine. Marcus would wake to Leo climbing into his bed, somehow escaping his crib with the determination of a tiny prison breaker. They'd lie there while Leo talked about his dreams in fractured sentences that made no sense but felt important. Big dog. Flying. Mama. Cookies. Sounds like a good dream. More cookies. I bet. Then Leo would demand breakfast, and Marcus would make scrambled eggs that Leo would mostly throw on the floor while laughing like it was the height of comedy. Fatherhood was messy. Sticky. Exhausting in ways closing billion-dollar deals never touched. And Marcus had never felt more alive. Bath time was chaos. Leo treated water like a weapon, splashing until Marcus was soaked and the bathroom looked like a flood zone. But the baby's laugh, pure and infectious, made every soggy shirt worth it. "You're a menace," Marcus said, wrapping Leo in a towel. "Menace," Leo repeated happily, adding another word to his expanding vocabulary. Bedtime was different. Quieter. Sacred, almost. Marcus would carry Leo to his room, the guest room they'd converted into something that actually looked like it belonged to a child. Soft lighting. Stuffed animals. A crib Leo rarely stayed in, but needed anyway. Story, Leo would demand, clutching his favorite book about a bear who couldn't sleep. Marcus had read it 17 times in 3 days. Could recite it from memory. But Leo needed the routine, the consistency, the proof that this new life wasn't temporary. So Marcus read. Every night. Doing voices for different characters, making Leo giggle even as his eyes drooped. Again, Leo would say when Marcus finished, "It's late, buddy. Please." That word, so polite, so hopeful, destroyed any resistance Marcus had. "Okay. One more time." By the second reading, Leo would be asleep, small chest rising and falling, completely trusting that Marcus would be there in the morning. Marcus would sit there afterward, just watching his son sleep, memorizing the curve of his cheek, the way his hand clutched the stuffed elephant, the peaceful expression that made him look even more like Marcus's baby photos. "You're staring again." Zola's voice came from the doorway one night. "Can't help it. Still can't believe he's real." She moved closer, looking down at their sleeping son. "He's real. And he's yours." "Ours," Marcus corrected quietly. Zola's expression softened. Over the past week, she'd watched Marcus transform from billionaire to father. Seen him prioritize Leo over business calls. Witnessed him get spit up on expensive suits without complaint. Watched him learn patience he'd never possessed. "You're good at this," she said. "I'm terrible at this. Yesterday, I put his diaper on backward. But you're trying. That's what matters." Marcus stood, careful not to wake Leo. They moved to the hallway, pulling the door almost closed. "I keep thinking about all the firsts I missed," Marcus said. His birth. First smile. First word. First steps. "You can't get those back." "I know. But I can be here for everything else. First day of school. First bike ride. First," he stopped. "Everything. I want to be here for everything." Zola studied his face in the dim hallway light. "What about your company? The board? The Montgomerys. Fighting me. Victoria's father is trying to force a vote. Wants me removed as CEO. Marcus. I don't care. Let them have it. I'll start over if I have to." "You'd really give up everything you built?" Marcus looked through the cracked door at Leo's sleeping form. "I'm not giving up everything. I'm choosing what actually matters." Zola's eyes glistened. "I spent 18 months hating you, convinced you were incapable of caring about anyone but yourself. I was. You were right to hate me. But people can change. You're proving that. I'm trying. For him. For you. For..." Marcus stopped himself, uncertain how to finish that sentence. Zola stepped closer. Not quite touching, but close enough that Marcus could smell her shampoo, something simple and clean that reminded him of those late nights 18 months ago. "For us," she suggested quietly. "Yeah, for us." The word hung between them, tentative, fragile, full of possibility. From Leo's room came a small sound. Not quite crying, just a sleep noise that meant he'd rolled over and was checking if anyone was nearby. They both froze, listening. The sound stopped. Leo had settled back into dreams. "He's lucky to have you," Marcus said. Zola's smile was sad and hopeful at once. "He's lucky to have both of us." Finally. And standing in that hallway, their son sleeping nearby, something that felt like family began to take root. The email came at 3 a.m. Marcus was awake anyway. Leo had a nightmare and wouldn't go back to sleep without Marcus sitting beside his crib. So Marcus sat there, phone in hand, catching up on the fires burning in his business life. The email was from Gerald Chun, his VP of Operations. Subject line, "You need to see this." Marcus opened it. Inside, screenshots of internal company communications, messages between board members, plans to vote Marcus out at the emergency meeting scheduled for tomorrow. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the name coordinating everything: Thomas Rivera, Marcus's mentor, the man who taught him business when Marcus inherited the company at 26. The closest thing to a father figure Marcus had after his own dad died. Thomas was leading the coup. Marcus read through the messages, each one a knife between ribs. Marcus has become unstable. This situation with the child proves he's lost perspective. The Montgomerys are right. We need leadership that prioritizes shareholders, not personal drama. I'll propose Thomas as interim CEO. The board will approve it. Marcus is out by Friday. Marcus set the phone down carefully, afraid if he squeezed any harder he'd shatter it. Leo stirred in his crib, sensing tension even in sleep. Marcus reached through the bars and rested his hand on Leo's back, feeling the steady breathing. This was why he'd fought, why he'd chosen family over empire. But watching his entire professional life crumble still hurt. His phone buzzed. Text from Thomas, "We need to talk. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. My office." Marcus didn't respond. What was there to say? At 6 a.m., after Leo finally settled into deep sleep, Marcus found Zola making coffee in the kitchen. "You look terrible," she said. "Thanks." "What happened?" Marcus told her. About the vote. About Thomas's betrayal. About losing the company his grandfather had built, his father had grown, and he'd transformed into a global power. Zola listened quietly, then asked the question that mattered. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Fight maybe. Or let them have it. Start fresh." "That's not what I'm asking." She moved closer. "I'm asking if you regret choosing us." Marcus looked at her, really looked. At the woman who'd raised his son alone, who'd come back despite every reason to stay away, who was giving him a second chance he hadn't earned. "No, I don't regret it. Not for a second. Even if you lose everything, I won't lose everything. I've got Leo. He hesitated. "I've got you. If you'll stay." Zola's expression softened. "We're not going anywhere. Then I've got what matters." At 9 a.m., Marcus walked into Thomas Rivera's corner office. The older man looked up from his desk, silver hair, expensive suit, the face of someone who'd made hard decisions and slept fine afterward. "Marcus, sit." "I'll stand." Thomas sighed. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're trying to steal my company. How easy should I make it?" "Not stealing. Saving. You've lost focus. This situation with the maid and her child. His name is Leo. He's my son. And Zola isn't the maid. She's..." Marcus stopped. "What was she?" "She matters." "I'm sure she does. But you're destroying shareholder value. The Montgomerys are threatening to pull their support. Other investors are nervous. The board has no choice. There's always a choice." Thomas stood, moved to the window, overlooking the city. "I taught you everything you know about business. Took you under my wing when your father died and you inherited this mess. Made you into the leader you became." "I know." "Then you know I'm right. You can't run a company like this while playing house with a surprise family." "Playing house?" "I'm being a father. A father who's about to lose everything his family built." The words hit hard because they were true. 3 generations of Weatherlys had built this empire. And Marcus was watching it crumble because he'd finally learned there were things more important than quarterly earnings. "The vote is tomorrow," Thomas continued. "You can make this easy. Step down voluntarily. take a settlement, keep your dignity. Or we force you out, publicly, messily, and you lose not just the company, but your reputation, your future opportunities, everything. Marcus thought about Leo's laugh, about reading bedtime stories, about Zola's cautious trust, about building something real instead of just profitable. Do what you have to do, Marcus said. I'm not stepping down. Thomas's face hardened. You're making a mistake. Probably. But it's mine to make. Marcus walked out, leaving 20 years of mentorship burning behind him. His phone buzzed before he reached the elevator. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Weatherly? This is Detective Barnes, NYPD. We need to talk about the threats you reported concerning your son. Marcus's blood went cold. What about them? We traced the communications. The situation is more serious than we initially thought. How soon can you get to the station? Real question. Would you burn your career for your kid? Drop a comment if you would. Let's see who's really about family. The press conference was Marcus's idea. His lawyers called it career suicide. His remaining board members called it insanity. Thomas Rivera called it the final proof Marcus had lost his mind. But Marcus didn't care anymore. He stood backstage at the Weatherly Tower Auditorium, straightening his tie for the third time. Through the curtain, he could hear journalists gathering, that hungry murmur of people who smelled blood in the water. Zola appeared beside him, Leo on her hip. You don't have to do this. Yeah, I do. They'll destroy you. The press. The board. Everyone you're about to expose. Marcus looked at Leo, who was chewing on his stuffed elephant and oblivious to the chaos about to unfold. I've been hiding him for 5 days. Like he's something to be ashamed of. I'm done with that. Marcus. He deserves better. Deserves a father who claims him publicly, not one who keeps him secret to protect business deals. Leo reached for Marcus, and Marcus took him, settling his son against his chest. The baby immediately grabbed his tie. If I go out there alone, Marcus continued, I'm just another billionaire making excuses. But if I go out there with him, with you, everyone sees the truth. That he's real. That this matters more than their stocks and their mergers and their calculations. Zola's eyes filled. You're really doing this. We're really doing this. If you'll come with me. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay. Together. Marcus's PR director appeared, looking like she'd aged 5 years in 5 days. They're ready. But sir, I'm begging you one last time, reconsider. Once this is public, you can't take it back. Good. I don't want to take it back. They walked onto the stage. Camera flashes erupted like lightning. The murmur turned into chaos. Shouted questions, clicking cameras, the feeding frenzy of media sensing a story that would dominate headlines for weeks. Marcus stood at the podium, Zola beside him. Leo in his arms, staring at all the lights with wide-eyed wonder. Good morning. I'm Marcus Weatherly. Most of you know me as CEO of Weatherly Industries. Some of you are here because my board is trying to remove me from that position tomorrow. More flashes. Furious note-taking. But I'm not here to talk about business. I'm here to introduce my son. He adjusted Leo so the cameras could see him clearly. The baby waved, delighted by all the attention. His name is Leo. He's 18 months old. And until 6 days ago, I denied he existed. The room went silent. That rare, breathless silence when everyone knows they're witnessing something significant. Leo's mother, Zola Baptiste, worked for me 2 years ago. We had a relationship. She got pregnant. And Marcus's voice cracked. I paid her to go away, threatened her with lawyers, treated my own child like a problem to be eliminated. Zola's hand found his arm, steady, supporting. I was wrong, completely, inexcusably wrong. I let fear and pride and obsession with control turn me into someone who valued money over humanity, power over family, success over the one thing that actually gives life meaning. Leo tugged on Marcus's collar. Dada. The microphones picked it up. That single word, innocent and clear. Marcus kissed Leo's head. Yeah, buddy. Daddy's talking to a lot of people right now. Why? A ripple of unexpected laughter moved through the journalists. Even in chaos, a toddler's question cut through to truth. Because I want everyone to know you're mine. That I'm not ashamed of you. That I'm sorry I ever made your mama feel like you were anything less than the best thing that ever happened to me. He looked directly into the cameras. Tomorrow, my board will vote to remove me as CEO. They'll probably succeed. They'll say I'm unstable, distracted, prioritizing personal drama over shareholder value. And you know what? They're right. More chaos. Shouted questions he ignored. I am prioritizing my family over quarterly earnings. And I'd do it again. Because Leo taught me something in 6 days that 34 years of success couldn't. That power without love is just loneliness with better furniture. Zola was crying now. Silent tears she didn't try to hide. I'm here today to acknowledge my son publicly. To apologize to Zola for treating her like she was disposable. To tell Leo that his father is flawed and made terrible mistakes, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life making up for them. He turned to Zola. The cameras followed. I'm sorry, he said, meaning it with everything he had. For all of it. For sending you away. For 18 months Leo grew up without me. For every tear you cried raising him alone. I can't fix the past, but I'm begging you to let me be better going forward. Zola's voice came out shaky but strong. You already are. Leo, bored with a dulled emotion, started wiggling. Marcus set him down carefully. The baby immediately crawled toward the edge of the stage, attracted by all the shiny camera equipment. Marcus lunged after him, scooping him up before he could tumble off. Nice try, buddy. Leo laughed, and the sound, pure joy captured by dozens of microphones, became the moment that defined everything. Not Marcus's business empire. Not his wealth or power or reputation. Just a father catching his son. Just family being family, imperfect and real. The question started then, aggressive, probing, trying to find scandal underneath sincerity. Mr. Weatherly, did you pay Ms. Baptiste for her silence? Yes. $50,000. She used it to survive while raising our son alone. Are you seeking custody? I'm seeking a relationship. Custody is between Zola and me, not public discussion. What about Victoria Montgomery? Sources say you were engaged. There was never an engagement. Just business families trying to merge. That's over. Will you fight the board's vote tomorrow? Marcus looked at Leo, at Zola, at the family he'd almost destroyed through cowardice. No. If they vote me out, I'll go. I'll build something new. Something that doesn't require me to hide my son or apologize for choosing him. More questions. More chaos. But Marcus was done. He walked off stage, Zola beside him, Leo in his arms babbling about all the shiny things. Backstage, his phone was already exploding. Texts from board members. Calls from investors. Email after email of people telling him he'd just committed professional suicide. He ignored all of it, because Leo was pulling on his tie again, and Zola was looking at him like maybe, just maybe, forgiveness was possible. And that was worth more than every empire he'd ever built. Comment: everyone deserves respect. If you believe Marcus finally did the right thing. Let's show him what real values look like. The vote happened the next morning. Marcus didn't attend. He'd already said everything that mattered. Instead, he stayed home with Leo and Zola, building a tower out of blocks that Leo immediately destroyed with gleeful violence. His phone buzzed at 10:47 a.m. The email was short, vote complete. 8-4 in favor of removal. Effective immediately. Thomas Rivera appointed interim CEO. Marcus set the phone down. Well? Zola asked. I'm unemployed. She searched his face for regret, for anger, for the breakdown everyone expected. Found none of it. How do you feel? Marcus looked at Leo, who was trying to stack blocks on Marcus's head. Relieved, actually. Like I've been carrying weight I didn't realize was there until it lifted. What now? Now I figure out what kind of father I want to be. What kind of man? What kind of life actually matters? Over the next week, Marcus made changes. He hired a lawyer, not to fight Zola, but to establish formal custody agreements that protected Leo's interests. 50-50 custody. Child support that went into a trust Leo would control at 18. College funds. Medical care. Everything legally binding, so Leo never questioned whether his father would provide. He sold his penthouse. Too cold. Too much glass and marble and memories of the man he used to be. Bought a brownstone in Brooklyn instead. Something with a yard Leo could destroy and rooms that felt like actual people lived there. He apologized to Zola properly. Not just words, but actions. Therapy sessions where he confronted the cowardice that made him deny his own child. Conversations where he listened to the pain he'd caused instead of defending himself. I want to co-parent, he told her one night after putting Leo to bed. Real partners. Not me throwing money at problems while you do the actual work. That means 3 a.m. feedings when he's sick, Zola warned. I know. Tantrums in grocery stores. Public meltdowns. All of it. I want all of it. Zola studied him. You really mean that? I've missed 18 months. I'm not missing anything else. Slowly, carefully, they built something new. Not romance. Too much damage for that, at least not yet. But partnership. Respect. Co-parents raising a son who'd never doubt he was wanted. Marcus started teaching Leo things. Not business. The kid was 18 months old. But curiosity. How to ask questions. How to take things apart and figure out how they worked. How to be stubborn in pursuit of understanding, not just power. He's smart, Marcus told Zola one afternoon, watching Leo solve a puzzle designed for 3-year-olds. Gets that from both of us, she replied. Marcus looked at her. I want him to get your kindness too. Your strength. The ability to love people even when they don't deserve it. You're working on deserving it. Think I'll ever get there? Zola's smile was careful but genuine. You're trying. That's a start. 3 weeks after the press conference, Marcus got a call from an unexpected source. Thomas Rivera. I saw what you've been doing, Thomas said without preamble. The brownstone. The custody agreement. The therapy. And I was wrong. About you being unstable. About family being a distraction. A long pause. About what actually matters. Marcus said nothing. Let Thomas sit with his words. The company's struggling, Thomas continued. Without you. Turns out replacing vision with caution doesn't drive growth. Who knew? What do you want, Thomas? I want to offer you a consulting position. No CEO role. Just advisory. Help us transition. Help me fix what I broke. Why would I help you? Because it's still your family's legacy. And because Thomas's voice cracked slightly. Because I'm sorry. I chose money over mentorship. Just like you chose money over fatherhood. We both had to learn the hard way. Marcus looked across the room where Leo was attempting to feed his stuffed elephant applesauce. Zola was trying not to laugh. I'll think about it, Marcus said. But Leo comes first. Always. That's non-negotiable. Understood. Marcus ended the call. Thomas. Zola asked. Wants me back. Sort of. Will you go? Marcus watched Leo successfully get applesauce into the elephant's face, then into his own mouth, then onto the floor. Chaos and joy in equal measure. Maybe. On my terms. But only if it doesn't take time away from this. He gestured at their living room, toys scattered everywhere, half-eaten snacks on every surface, evidence of life actually being lived. This is what matters, Marcus said. Everything else is just details. Leo looked up, noticed Marcus watching, and grinned. Dada. Look. He showed Marcus the applesauce-covered elephant with such pride that Marcus's heart nearly burst. That's great, buddy. He looks delicious. Leo giggled and went back to his destruction. Zola moved beside Marcus. Close. Not quite touching, but close enough. You've changed, she said quietly. Had to. The old version would have lost everything worth keeping. And now, Marcus looked at his son, at the woman who'd given him a second chance, at the messy, imperfect, beautiful life they were building together. Now I've got exactly what I need. If this story reminded you what's worth fighting for, subscribe and share it. Real change starts when we choose people over power every single time. 6 months after the press conference, Detective Barnes called with news that changed everything. We've got him. Marcus was at the park watching Leo attempt the slide for the 20th time. Got who? Ferris. And the whole operation he was running. Marcus's blood went cold. He moved away from a playground where Zola was spotting Leo. What operation? Turns out your former assistant wasn't just feeding information to the Montgomerys. He was running a side business, corporate espionage, blackmail, threats. Been doing it for years, across multiple companies. You weren't his first target, just his most profitable. The threats against Leo were real. He'd hired someone to follow Ms. Baptiste, photograph her and your son, build leverage in case you didn't cooperate. Barnes paused. We found everything. Emails, bank transfers, recorded conversations. He's looking at 15 to 20 years. Marcus's legs nearly gave out. The danger had been real. Leo, innocent, trusting Leo, had been in actual danger because Marcus had built his empire on the backs of people like Ferris. People who saw morality as weakness and manipulation as strategy. When's the trial? 3 months. We'll need you to testify. I'll be there. Marcus ended the call and stood there, watching his son play. Leo had finally mastered the slide and was celebrating with both arms raised, demanding Zola watch him do it again. That night, after Leo was asleep, Marcus told Zola everything. She went pale. He was going to hurt Leo. He was going to use him as leverage to control me. But he didn't. Because you chose us first. Marcus pulled her close, something they'd been doing more often lately, as forgiveness slowly transformed into something deeper. I should have seen it sooner. Should have known what kind of person I'd surrounded myself with. You were that person too. Once. The words stung because they were true. 6 months ago, Marcus would have understood Ferris's logic. Would have seen relationships as transactions and people as assets to manage or eliminate. I'm not anymore, Marcus said. I know. 3 months later, Marcus sat in a courtroom and watched Ferris get sentenced. The evidence was overwhelming. Not just the threats against Leo, but years of manipulation across dozens of companies. Corporate secrets sold. Blackmail schemes. Threats that had destroyed careers and lives. Ferris showed no remorse. Even at sentencing, his face remained that professional mask, cold, calculated, certain he'd done nothing wrong. 18 years, the judge announced. No possibility of parole for 12. Ferris's mask cracked. Just for a second. Long enough to reveal panic underneath. He looked at Marcus as they led him away. Not with hatred, with confusion. Like he genuinely couldn't understand why Marcus had chosen differently. Outside the courthouse, Marcus found Thomas Rivera waiting. The older man looked tired. Aged. 6 months of running Weatherly Industries without Marcus's vision had worn him down. Justice served, Thomas said. About time. I should have seen what he was. What I was becoming by association. Marcus studied his former mentor. We all should have seen a lot of things sooner. The board voted yesterday. Unanimous. They want you back as CEO. Marcus had known this was coming. The company had struggled without him. Stock prices dropped. Major deals fell through. Turns out replacing vision with fear-based management didn't inspire loyalty or innovation. No, Marcus said simply. Thomas blinked. No. I'm done with Weatherly Industries. Done with that life. I'm starting something new. Something that doesn't require me to become someone I hate to succeed. What will you do? Marcus thought about the past 6 months. About learning Leo's laugh. About bedtime stories and sticky hands and 1,000 tiny moments that made life worth living. About Zola's trust slowly rebuilding. About becoming someone his son could actually be proud of. I'm starting a foundation for single parents who need support, legal help, financial assistance, childcare, all the things Zola needed while I was pretending Leo didn't exist. Thomas's expression shifted. That's quite a change from hostile takeovers. Good. Hostile takeovers made me rich and empty. This might actually matter. The Montgomerys dropped their lawsuit, by the way. Victoria's father read the press coverage. Saw the photo of you catching Leo before he fell off the stage. Said it reminded him of his own kids when they were young. Thomas smiled slightly. Apparently, even ruthless corporate sharks remember being fathers. Marcus looked back at the courthouse, at the building where Ferris would spend the next 12 years paying for treating people like chess pieces. We all have to choose eventually, Marcus said. Power or humanity. You can't actually have both. Not really. You chose. Yeah. Took me too long, but I chose. Thomas extended his hand. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Your father would be too. Marcus shook it. Thanks. That actually means something. He walked away from the courthouse, from Weatherly Industries, from the empire that had defined him for 34 years, and felt lighter than he had in his entire life. 1 year after Leo said Daddy for the first time, the three of them sat in their backyard watching fireflies. Leo was 2.5 now, talking in full sentences, running instead of toddling, growing into himself with a confidence that came from knowing he was loved by both parents. Dada, look. Leo pointed at a firefly landing on his arm. It likes me. Course it does. You're pretty likable. Leo grinned and tried to catch another firefly, missing by a mile, but laughing anyway. Zola sat beside Marcus on the porch steps, their shoulders touching. Comfortable. Easy. The kind of closeness that comes from building something real instead of pretending pain didn't exist. I got the final paperwork today, Marcus said. The foundation is officially operational. Baptiste Weatherly Family Support. You put my name first. It's your vision. I'm just the money guy. She leaned against him. You're more than that now. Marcus kissed her head. Something they'd been doing more often. Small intimacies that hinted at what might be rebuilding between them. Think he'll remember any of this? Marcus asked, watching Leo chase fireflies with abandon. The chaos? The press conference? All of it. Probably not the details. But he'll remember feeling safe. Feeling wanted. That's what matters. Leo ran back to them, out of breath. More. Catch more. It's almost bedtime, buddy. No bed. Fireflies. The negotiation that followed was one they'd had 100 times. Leo bargaining for 5 more minutes, Marcus holding firm at 3, them eventually settling on 4, because Leo's argument about needing 1 more minute for the last firefly was surprisingly logical. He's going to be a lawyer, Zola said, laughing. Or a CEO. God help us. But Marcus said it with pride. Leo's stubbornness, his intelligence, his refusal to accept no without a solid reason. Those were Weatherly traits without the toxicity. Drive without cruelty. Ambition without ruthlessness. That's what the past year had been about. Breaking the cycle. Teaching Leo that strength didn't require stepping on people. That success meant more than quarterly earnings. That family was something you chose every day, not something you inherited and ignored. When Leo finally crashed, exhausted from firefly hunting, Marcus carried him inside. Zola followed, and together they went through their nightly routine. Bath time, still chaotic, still ending with everyone soaked. Pajamas, a battle Leo occasionally won by running naked through the house. story time. Currently obsessed with a book about a bear who learned to share. Again, Leo demanded after the first reading. It's late. Please. Those eyes. Devastating every time. Marcus read it again. By the third page, Leo was asleep, sprawled across Marcus's lap, thumb in his mouth, completely trusting that tomorrow would come and his parents would still be there. Marcus carried him to bed, a real bed now, not a crib. Leo was growing up fast. Too fast. Love you, buddy, Marcus whispered, tucking him in. Leo mumbled something in his sleep that sounded like love dada. In the hallway, Zola was waiting. She'd been doing that more often. Waiting for Marcus after Leo fell asleep. Wanting to talk. To connect. To build something that went beyond co-parenting. He's out, she asked. Completely. They moved to the living room. Sat on the couch that had replaced Marcus's expensive furniture. This one was soft. Comfortable. Covered in stains from juice boxes and marker accidents. Actually lived on. I've been thinking, Zola said carefully. About us. What we're building. Where this goes. Marcus's heart rate kicked up. They'd been dancing around this conversation for months. The lingering looks. The casual touches that felt less casual. The way co-parenting had started feeling like something more. Where do you want to go? He asked. I don't know. A year ago, I hated you. 6 months ago, I tolerated you. Now, she stopped, searching for words. Now I see who you're becoming. Who you're choosing to be. And I think maybe we could. Try. Marcus suggested. Yeah. Try. Slowly. Carefully. For Leo, but also for us. Marcus took her hand. I'd like that. More than you know. But if you ever go back to being that person who sent us away. I won't. That person died the day Leo said Daddy. I can't go back even if I wanted to. Zola searched his face, looking for the lie, the manipulation, the hidden agenda. Found none of it. Okay, she said quietly. Let's try. They sat there, hands linked, watching nothing in particular. Just being. Just existing in a moment they'd built from wreckage and second chances. Thank you, Marcus said. For what? For coming back. For giving me the chance to be his father. For, his voice cracked. For saving me from becoming someone too broken to fix. Zola squeezed his hand. You saved yourself. I just showed you what was worth saving for. Upstairs, Leo made a sound in his sleep. Not distress. Just dreaming. They both listened. Parents tuned to frequencies only their child broadcast. The sound settled. Leo was fine. Everything was fine. Better than fine. Outside, fireflies still danced in the darkness. Inside, a family, imperfect and hard-won and absolutely real, found its rhythm. Marcus had spent 34 years chasing power, building empires, collecting wealth like it could fill the emptiness inside. Turns out all he'd needed was a baby who said daddy and meant it. A woman who'd shown him what strength actually looked like, and the courage to choose them over everything else. Some people never learned that lesson. Marcus almost didn't. But he had. Finally. When it mattered most. And that made all the difference. Subscribe to Tales of ACT for more stories about courage, justice, and choosing what actually matters. Only those who side with injustice would skip this. And you're not one of them, are you? Hit that button and join people who believe in real values.